Hi guys, and welcome back to Gaia's Harvest. Today we are making mushroom bolognese. Okay, so before we get started, let's just go over our ingredients, and let's start with the tomato sauce. So for the tomato sauce, I usually like to use canned tomatoes because canned tomatoes are usually ripe tomatoes. They pick the ripe tomatoes and they can them because if they put them in the grocery stores, they're overripe and they'll get bad, and we can't, and obviously we can't use them that way. So they can ripe tomatoes typically. And I like this one because it's fire roasted and it's organic. Now the tomatoes you buy in the store, they look ripe, but honestly they're not gonna give you that full-on tomato flavor that you're looking for, especially with tomato sauces. So my personal preference and what I would recommend if you're making tomato sauce, I would go with the canned tomatoes. And definitely try the fire roasted tomatoes too. And always buy organic when you can. Then we're gonna, tomato sauce, and then with that we're gonna have some asparagus on the side, very quick, just 5 minutes in the oven, quick roast on those. I also have some basil. All these things I got from Sprouts. Basil, I just love the smell. They're great. It's great in bolognese. It's just great all around. I have some garlic here because it's really sexy and I love garlic. And then here I have whole wheat pasta. This is made with 100% semolina, also known as durum wheat. It says made in Italy, so that's kind of really cool. They were 2 for $3, so it was a really good deal. And also, this one is made with spinach instead of egg, so it's definitely vegan. It even says it on the packet, so that's really good. And then for the mushroom bolognese, I have some organic mushrooms here. I also got at Sprouts. These were the same ones I used in the other video, the avocado toast. So these are about $3 per package. Typically when I do a mushroom bolognese, I use just mushrooms, but since I'm making this video and I'm looking for people who are trying to transition, what I would recommend, if you're still looking for that meat texture, I would definitely recommend either Beyond Meat or a Gardein brand beefless beef or meat substitution. This one I like better than the Beyond Meat because of the texture. This one hits more of a ground beef texture, whereas the Beyond Meat hits more of a ground sausage texture. So it's a bit bigger in the lumps. So I'm gonna just do both, best of both worlds, and then let you guys decide how do you want to do it. I recommend trying it this way, but I definitely recommend just sticking to the mushrooms and doing it a plant-based way. Other things I'm gonna add are, is nutritional yeast, just because if you're looking for that nutty Parmesan cheese taste in vegan sauces and vegan dishes, you're gonna get it from nutritional yeast, and we're gonna go over that later on, right? And then also I like adding some red wine in my bolognese because it's wine, it's delicious, and that's how I learned to do it from a real Italian. This wine I got from Sprouts. It's called it's called Broke Ass Wine, and the back it says bandage your budget. I thought this was really funny, and since we're trying to transition without breaking our budget, I figured this was the wine to use. So that is all of our ingredients without the basic salt, pepper, and oil mentioned. So that being said, we're gonna start prepping and we're gonna get ready to cook. Let's go. Okay guys, so let's get started on our mise en place. First, with the onion, what I like to do is cut it at the end there and then cut it in half again. I want to keep the root on just because it helps in keeping the onion stabilized. You see that I'm saving my onion trash here. It's because I plan on making stock later this week, and my mushroom and my onion trash, or skins and buttons, are definitely, or stems I should say, is definitely going to help me in making stock. And stock is pretty much just the trash of your vegetables. You boil them out, and what you're doing is you're boiling out the flavor, and you're pretty much infusing water. Water, what it does, the stock, it adds another depth of flavor to your sauces, your soups, and just your overall meals, rather than using plain old boring water. And it's a great thing to adapt at home, considering, especially if you're not composting or something like that with your vegetable scraps. It's a great thing to just get more for your buck, really, because you're using all parts of the vegetables, right? So typically what I do after I cut the onion like that, I go ahead and since our knife is sharp from the last time, I'll just get to this part here. Then when it gets low, I just take that and I add it to my stock supply, right? Same thing with the other side. All right, so that's it for my onions. I'm gonna add some oil. You see my pot's already going. I got my water already boiling for my pasta and it's almost there. And I did add salt to this water because salt seasons and that's what it's gonna do to my pasta. So the first season my pasta gets won't be from the sauce at the end, but it'll be throughout the whole cooking process. So I'm gonna add some oil to my already heated pan. Then I'm gonna add my onions. Okay, and while the onions start to slowly cook, I'm just gonna start chopping up my garlic so that by the time my onions are translucent, my garlic is ready to go. I see that's about good on our garlic. And now our onions should be going. While that's going, I'm just gonna add my pasta because the water is already boiling. You can make vegan pasta at home by yourself just simply by substituting any vegetable puree for the eggs. Just measure it the same as you would the eggs, and really, you can make vegan pasta that way. I like to use spinach a lot. I also like to use beets sometimes, and when you use beets, you get that beautiful red color for the pasta, so that's just great. So while my onions are getting nice and sexy and translucent, I'm gonna take care of my mushrooms. So what I'm going to do with my mushrooms, I'm gonna use my my burr mixer or hand blender or whatever you wanna call this, and I'm going to use it to, instead of cut my mushrooms, I'm just gonna get them to a smaller texture, and this is just gonna go a lot faster. So here we go. See, the water content is really just gonna make it so that I don't really need anything with the mushrooms to do this. I can just turn on the burr mixer and just get it going. Quickly, this is where I'll stop. It's small enough to hide it from whoever doesn't like mushrooms, and it's large enough to provide some kind of texture. I'm gonna add these in with the onions before I add the garlic. And the reason I do it that way is because mushrooms and onions can be cooked longer than garlic can. Once it gets to a certain point, it starts to burn and it's not really a good flavor. So my mushrooms and my onions, I know I can cook for a while, let them get nice and sexy, let them get to know each other before I add the garlic and then continue on with the sauce. And then you always want to make sure you're stirring your pasta, because what happens is if you don't stir it, it sinks all the way to the bottom of the pot, and then you end up with one big fettuccine rather than a whole pot of fettuccine. And then, like I said before, you always want to be salting throughout the whole process of this. Okay, so our pasta is almost there. And with pasta, you want to take it off just really, I would say 30 seconds to a minute before you think it's going to be ready, because you have to account for the carryover cooking. And carryover cooking is what takes place after you've taken something from the heat source. My mushrooms are coming along really good. It smells delicious, and I'm just gonna let them get brown before I actually add in so we're gonna give this about 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna add in the beef. So the pasta is ready, so I'm just gonna pour that out. Typically what I like to do is just put it, whatever colander I'm using, I'd like to just put it right back on the pot and just let it start straining through there. And then from there I can just work on my sauce really. I do like adding just a little bit of olive oil to my fresh made pasta so that it doesn't stick as much to each other as it normally would. So now that our mushrooms have gotten really nice and brown and sexy, I'm just going to add some of this garlic here. And when I add the garlic, I'm also going to add the ground beef. Now I haven't tasted it up until this point because I know that I haven't added nearly enough salt and pepper for this, especially because I'm going to add a sauce to it. So I'm seasoning as I go, knowing that I'll probably have to add more seasonings to it. And so we're just gonna let this cook about like 5 more minutes, and then we're gonna add the. So it's been 5 minutes, and now we're gonna add the wine. When it comes to wine, I don't usually measure. I just pour till my heart feels like it's right, and then I drink the rest. So we're gonna do that tonight too. This I'll save for later. So now we're just gonna let the wine cook and dry out in the meat, also known as au sec in French. Now that our wine is drying out, one of the last things we're gonna add to our, and most important ingredient actually, to our sauce is our tomatoes. And what we wanna do with the tomatoes is we're gonna mix it down again so we can get more of a sauce texture versus the diced tomato texture. Okay, so I'm also going to add some water to this just to kind of stretch my sauce a little bit and get whatever remaining juices is out of this tomato can. All right, so you can see that my beef is looking nice and lovely, and I'm going to add my tomato sauce. Okay, so we're just going to let this cook down for a bit and come back to it. So now we're gonna take care of our asparagus, and then we're gonna start finishing up everything that we've just done, okay? So what I like to do for my asparagus, and for really all my vegetables, I like to just keep it simple. So with asparagus, I find that 4 minutes in the oven on 350 is really just all you need. And typically, if I'm not grilling the asparagus, that's usually what I'm doing to them. So here, I'm just gonna, because again, I like garlic, I'm just gonna throw some garlic on my asparagus just to get that nice roasted garlic flavor. Next, I'm just gonna add the juice of 1 lemon. It just balances out that kind of bitter harshness of the asparagus. I think it's great. And then I like to add some salt and pepper, as always. And then lastly, I'm just gonna add some olive oil, and literally that's it. That's all you need. And we're just gonna throw this in the oven. And now we're gonna check on our Bolognese, see how that's doing. And she is looking good. All right, so just to add a little bit of like I said, that nutty Parmesan texture, we're just gonna throw in, or the Parmesan flavor, we're just gonna throw in some nutritional yeast. Now this, I didn't measure, but I'm assuming that's about a tablespoon. And we're just gonna cover this and let it go just for 5 more minutes while we start plating our dish, right? The last thing we're gonna actually add to our sauce is our basil. Fresh basil truly smells so good. I can't even explain the thing it does to me. You just have to smell it. When it comes to herbs, you want to make sure your knife is sharp. Otherwise, you're just going to bruise the herb. You're not going to get that vibrant, lively smell, flavor, texture that you're looking for. You're just going to bruise it till it turns brown, and it's just not basil anymore. So if your knife is sharp like it should be, we're just going to run through this real quick. So you can see that I'm chopping, or excuse me, slicing, or some people might say chiffonade, these basil leaves, and but I'm not bruising them with my knife because my knife is still sharp from the last time we sharpened it. So you get these nice, beautiful strands. And I'm gonna take those nice, beautiful strands and I'm gonna throw it in my pot. I'm gonna toss that around. Yummy. I can't wait for you guys to try this recipe. It's so good. Okay, now I'm just gonna turn this off because I know it's done. And my favorite part, I'm gonna plate it and then that's it, all right? Okay, so the food's plated, but the last thing I like to do is add just a little bit of color to the plate. So I'm just gonna add just a nice little bit of personality on there somewhere. And of course, our beautiful basil. And there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoy this mushroom bolognese. I encourage you to try it with and without the beef substitute. I definitely recommend it without, just to keep the plant-based and less soy part of it in your diet. But it's good either way, and everything in moderation, really, especially even with a plant-based diet. The trick is to keep your diet varied so you're never bored and you're never missing out on any particular vitamin or minerals or macros in general. So I hope you enjoyed watching. I hope you try the recipe. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook. Check me out at Gaia's Harvest on Instagram or Patrina Peer. Thank you guys. Bye.